Troy Galloway is a construction manager and consultant, commercial and residential builder, and a certified inspector for all commercial and residential buildings. And now, here is About the House with Troy Galloway.
Well, hello, folks. Welcome back to About the House. This is your audio university of knowledge on everything about your home, from construction, remodeling, home improvement, building, everything building related. And because of our forever library with our podcast and our YouTube videos, every other week we have a different something we're trying to show, we're trying to highlight, whether it be a skill or a trade or something that is really we need to know about our home. So you can always go back and check it out. This is a very informative show. Actually, there's nobody out here that's doing what we're doing for you folks, so you can always go back and learn. You know, there's so much information you're going to get today. We got a great show here today you're really going to love, so you're going to make sure you get a pen and paper out so as we're going through this. And the great thing about it, you can always back it up on your YouTube or your podcast and catch up whatever questions that you have. Hey, this is Troy Galloway. I'm your humble host, owner of Galloway Building Services. Just like this show, we're a one-of-a-kind company. There isn't anybody that provides the services we do for folks throughout the Midwest every single day. We help people with construction consulting. If you have any questions, whether your job is being done right or not, give us a call. We do new construction inspections. So if you're building a home or having a remodel project, you want to make sure that you're getting what you paid for, you give us a call, make sure it's being done right. We also do commercial and residential inspections. So if you're buying a building or you're buying a home, you want to make sure you know what it is that you're buying, give us a call. We also do, heaven forbid, if you ever have any construction issues and you got to go to court, we do expert witnessing also. And we've been doing this now for over 42 years. And we would love to have an opportunity to help you with everything you might need. You know, our motto is that you're getting what you paid for. We're making sure you're getting what you paid for. The job is being done right, and you're not getting ripped off. So give us a call, Galloway Building Services, 636-394-3112. Today, folks, I'm excited. This is going to be an absolutely fabulous show we're having here. I finally got this young lady in here to speak with us. I think she's going to kick me in the shins any minute now. And Patty, this is Patty Clisham of Ducts. And Patty came well recommended by other folks. So in this industry she's in, ductwork cleaning, honestly, there's very few of the folks out there that is honest and has the integrity of this lady and her company. That's why I recommend her all the time. Patty, welcome. Thank you for showing up on our show. Appreciate you taking your time to help the folks out.
Well, Troy, thank you for asking me to be here. I do appreciate it, and I do have a lot of experience in this, and I have a lot of good stories and a lot of good advice for people that are considering duct cleaning or HVAC restoration in their building, commercial building, residence.
This is your company, right, Patty? You're a woman-owned company?
I am. Yep. This is my company, and I've owned it for 12 and a half years. And we kind of started out as a very small company with me and one tech and one truck. And over the years, we've grown where we have 6 techs and we have 4 trucks and 2 trailers and some office people. And we have a lot of happy customers.
I know you do, because everybody I've ever recommended, they always say great things about you. That's why I don't really recommend to anybody else but you out there, because I know that we want to make sure it's important to make sure it's done right. It's just absolutely important, and a lot of people with allergies and things. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to let you do that, and let's jump right in here. And here's one of the questions that I get asked a lot: when do people actually consider doing the duct cleaning?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons why people would want to do duct cleaning. And one thing I want to let you know, we do not advertise. We are word of mouth. So people like you and a lot of our other customers that we have, they refer us. So that's how I get found. So when people think about duct cleaning, is a lot of times when they're having their HVAC system changed out, either in their business or their home. So they have have these, so we work a lot with the air conditioning contractors here in St. Louis, which I'm on a board of directors for them. So I have a great contact and a great relationship with a lot of them. But when they're changing out their system, say it's 20 or 25 years old, and they pull that old system out, and they see all the dirt that's in there and accumulation, and they don't think about it. So they have this new system now, and they put in a new filter system, and they're like, with their brand new HVAC system, and maybe they put in some clean effects or something, I'm not sure what all the Train and Lennox and Carrier, what they have, but they have some expensive air filtration systems. So now, if they haven't had their ductwork cleaned, this system is pushing more air and it's pulling more air because it's a newer system. So they notice that some of the dirt is blowing out of their vents because it's pushing more air, and that new filtration system that they paid a lot of money for is all clogged up. So then they're like, well, we probably should have had our ductwork clean. So that's one particular time when people think of me, is when they have really dirty filters.
So, because people ask me, well, I have a filter. Why in the world do I need to have my ductwork cleaned? So what you're actually saying is that filter system isn't 100%.
It is important, but a lot of the dirt that we find, and particulate, if you will, comes from the original constructions of the home. So many people have never, ever had their ductwork cleaned, and they're wondering, yes, I have a great filtration system, and that's on the return side, but why am I having dirt blow out? Well, during construction, and I'm not saying this about all contractors, but sometimes if it's warm in the summer or cool in the winter, they run those HVAC systems, and sometimes they don't put filters in them, or they don't change them out, or maybe they put a cheap filter in there that allows particulate to go through the system and get pushed into the supply side. Or during construction, and not everybody, so I'm not beating up on all contractors, but a lot of the debris, if it's on the floor, ends up in that ductwork.
It does, and and I cannot even begin to tell you how many people I've heard complain over the years, over the last 42 years, of drywall dust. I hear that more than anything, but I imagine you just find everything inside, crazy enough, everything inside.
There's a lot of crazy stuff in there. And the drywall dust, ductwork, even though it's not airtight, it's pretty close to that because you want to get the air where it's supposed to move to. But a lot of times there could be gaps in the ductwork, and that's a lot of times when you're doing construction, and when you're doing drywall, where that drywall goes. Right. It goes everywhere. Well, it ends up in there. I've found some rather unusual things in the ductwork cleaning, even in some very expensive homes. We've found sleeves of nails, like come from nail guns. Wow. Rags, towels, sometimes some soda cans and beer cans. I found half-eaten apples sometimes. It just happened to, nobody wanted to walk out to a trash can, and maybe it just fell into the ductwork.
Well, I can't believe you just only find sometimes beer cans. I mean, construction guys,
yes,
we've all enjoyed our alcoholic beverages on the job site.
We have found a lot, and sometimes, I'm not saying that they do it on purpose, but we do find cans, beer cans, soda cans, coffee cups, but I don't know. I'm just speculating that maybe somebody put something in there because you may have had a disgruntled worker that says, I'm going to put this can in this ductwork. And we have found that where people have moved in and they're like, I've had this rattle for 4 or 5 years since we moved in. And sure enough, it's an old Pepsi can. But one of the, I don't know, some of the older people, we have found may appreciate this, but we have found old Falstaff cans.
Save them more money there.
And so in our office, we have a shelf where we put things that we have found in the ductwork. Not everything, but we find toys, and we found some old baseball cards. None, unfortunately, that were worth anything, but they're kind of our little trophies. Plus, we find a lot of bugs and dead animals.
Oh, I bet the bugs. Oh, and the dead. Yeah, sad about the dead animals too.
Yeah, dead animals. We in one house, they were doing a renovation, and this was in an older house, so it's not like you're airtight or some of the newer homes. It was an older house with a brick kind of foundation or a cinder block foundation. We found. Well, let me tell you this. My guys, when they call me and they go, guess what we found? I can only imagine what it is. So this particular day, they said, guess what we found? And I'm like, I have no idea. And they said, we found a complete dead possum carcass. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, first of all, when that happened, don't you know it had to smell? So I said, well, keep it. And they're like, we're not keeping the carcass. But I tell you what, I do have a picture of it because I have a book full of a lot of pictures. I call them my dirty picture book.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them in your presentations before.
And so I have a picture of him, and we named him Pete the Possum in his natural habitat in the ductwork. But they kept the skull. So I have the skull in one of those plastic cases like you put model cars in with the hair and the teeth and what fur was left. And I take it around and show people because you never know what's lurking in your ductwork.
No, I know. I mean, when I do inspections, I always look down in the ducts. I always check to see airflow. Actually, I'm not really checking as a home inspection. We don't really check for what's in the ductwork. What we're checking for is there proper airflow. Then if there's a problem, then we'll look. But, I've seen some crazy, wild things there. Well, hey, let me ask you, Patty. So I have my job done, or I move into my new home, whether it's brand new or just move into it, and I get my ductwork clean. How often should a person get their ducts clean? Is there like a time, or is it time sensitive to allergies, or what should we be looking for?
Well, a lot of times new construction, so they move into their house and have the ductwork clean. Some people won't even move into it until the ductwork's clean. But once it's done and it's done properly, you don't need your ductwork clean for another maybe 7 to 10 years, unless you have, unfortunately, heaven forbid, a water loss or a fire. Then you would have to have the ductwork clean. Or you say you remodeled your basement. That's a good time to have the ductwork clean. You've refinished your wood floors. You've taken out some floors and put in some ceramic. Anytime that you have construction done, and once again, I know the contractors do their best to keep it as clean as they can, but that dust just gets in there.
You just can't keep that dust out.
No, you can't. And even with a good filtration system. And then sometimes they forget to change the filter. And I was at one house the other day, and they had just had construction, and they forgot to change the filter, and it was so impacted, I couldn't even get it out. So now you're inhibiting airflow for your furnace or your air conditioning, and that is going to make your system work harder, and it's going to cause more electricity or cost you more in electricity to run that system. Now, in the summertime, if that's blocked and you're not getting a lot of airflow, you very well could freeze up a coil that way.
Oh, yeah, and we see it all the time. Especially on, I see this on new construction, because I'm also one of them guilty ones. I let the furnaces run there in the wintertime, and I let the air conditioners run in the wintertime when I'm building.
Sure.
Because, I get better performance out of the men. But with the cleaning, so as a builder, I know we do home inspections, but I'm also a builder. So as a builder, we like the idea of thinking that if we use this as an additive, bonus to what the job is, then look at what we do different than the local guy who just works out back of his pickup truck.
Right.
But now with the services you're providing is a lot more than what they used to be. You guys really have been able to do a lot better job of cleaning them.
And I appreciate that. And yes, we do. The technology for cleaning ductwork now is a whole lot different than it was back in the day.
Yeah.
So
even 10 years ago.
Even 10 or 15 years ago, right. We use portable machines because we do a lot of commercial work, so you can't use a truck for that. So we use portable machines. We can get in high-rise buildings and, wherever we need to get with those. They are Nicro machines, and they pull about 5,000 CFM, and they have, 3 stages of HEPA filtration. So that process we use is very good, and we get good results with that. So we have the process is negative air, always using negative air, and then what you're doing is you're trying to push all of that particulate to a common trunk line and then clean the trunk line. So it's a process of HEPA filtration, pulling the air, and then agitation, pushing it. So we use compressed air and negative air. And we always take pictures before and after, and that's where we find all the interesting things. Now, you mentioned airflow sometimes. When people remodel their basement, sometimes they block everything in, so it's hard to see what has happened. So sometimes after that they may have an airflow issue. Well, there's dampers on some trunk lines, branch lines, and sometimes those get knocked while during construction. So that's something that we find a lot, that a damper got closed when there isn't airflow in certain areas.
Do you folks do any camera work then? You take pictures. Do you do camera work? Do you scope it, you might say?
We can for a short area, but I have a plumber that I work with that he can go a lot further than I can. A lot of times, if it's a drop ceiling or it's accessible, we just cut a hole in the ductwork.
I thought that's what you did a lot of times.
We do a lot of sheet metal. Sheet metal's very forgiving. You can't clean ductwork unless you can cut a hole in it. And some people don't want you to cut a hole in their ductwork, but you can't clean it. But as long as it is, the holes are cut properly and they are repaired properly per NADCA standards. We are certified by NADCA, which is the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, and we pretty much follow their ethics and guidelines for cleaning ductwork and following cleanliness standards.
That's important for the folks to remember that, because that's the separates those from that are not following. And how else would you know if you're a consumer, if you've got somebody that's a professional?
And I do. I spend a lot of my time educating people on what to do and what not to do. NADCA, if in our area, you go to the NADCA website, NADCA.com, and you put in your zip code, it will give you a list of NADCA certified companies here in the St. Louis area, and or wherever you are, whatever part of the country you are. In St. Louis, there's only a handful of us. Some don't do any commercial, and then there are some that just do commercial and no residential. Ducts, we do commercial, industrial, as well as residential. But the NADCA website has a lot of good information on what to expect when having your ductwork cleaned.
That's great. Well, you mentioned something about, I want to talk about mold here in a minute, because that's a huge issue, for where we live. But fires, it's wintertime. We have a lot of fires, and how that's, I've been a fire remediation company for a long time, and wow, it's just like impossible to get that smell out. Do you folks work with that?
We do. We work a lot with the remediation companies. So unfortunately, when there is a fire, the remediation company comes in and they do all the demo work. and they do all of the cleaning and wiping and whatever has to be replaced. And then we come in afterwards and we will do the duct cleaning after that. There's a soot standard out there that pretty much talks about anytime there is a fire in a building, dwelling, anything, that the ductwork and HVAC system needs to be cleaned because of all those very fine, small particles that have to get out of there. And even though you may not be able to see them, they're there. And they can irritate certain people, may have an allergy to that. So it's important to have the ductwork and HVAC system cleaned after a fire in any building.
Now we're going to switch from fire to cigarettes. I'm sorry to, because I don't want to pick on anybody. I'm an ex-smoker, but so it kind of irritates me a little bit. Frustrates me, but the smell of cigarettes. Now, what can you folks do anything to help when we got one of them stinky houses? I know that it's in the walls. I know it's in the carpet, but it's also in my dust, right?
Yes, it is. So a lot of times people will move into a house and the walls have been painted and the carpet's either been cleaned or replaced, and yet they still can smell the nicotine, and it is in the ductwork and in the HVAC system. So what happens is the dust that's in there, all those particles attach to what's in the ductwork. So that's where the smell is coming from. So we do come in and we clean after that. And then we do have a couple of products that we use based on, how bad it is. And it's fogged into the system after we clean the ductwork. And everything that we use in ductwork is approved for use in ductwork. Sometimes people spray some things in ductwork, which they shouldn't.
Right.
And I'm going to mention one right now.
Good.
I was in a home not too long ago where some company sprayed tea tree oil into the ductwork.
Really?
And apparently yes. And so what it ended up being was a big, huge, gooey mess on the second floor of these people's house, and there was nothing we could do about it. We can't get that out. They needed to replace that ductwork. So be careful what anybody sprays into your ductwork and make sure that it is approved. Tea tree oil has no business being in ductwork.
Wow. Yeah, I've never even
dreamed
of
that. Was a horror story. Those poor people.
Oh, yeah, especially they got to get to how they got. That's going to cost big money.
Yes.
So, what about mold inside of our ductwork? That's kind of crossing two boundaries here, the mold remediation and yours. And we both got good friends that are in the business.
Right.
Jesse Collum, and also Travis Moyer, both of them.
Right.
So I'm just trying to give a shout out to both of them.
Okay, of course.
Free advertising, but they're both great companies. But what can we do about this mold in there?
So another thing, just like with the smoke and the mold, you have these, pieces of bacteria and mold spores after you have mold in your home. So they come in, and the remediation company, they run air scrubbers and they dehumidify, and they get everything dried out, and they get the any drywall replaced, whatever has to be done. They do their thing, and then we come in and we do clean the ductwork after that, because it's the same thing. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. So it's very important to have the ductwork cleaned after a mold remediation job. Now, in HVAC systems, a lot of times you find it like around the coil area if it's dirty. So mold needs three things to grow. It needs particulate or dirt, it needs air, and it needs moisture. So sometimes we do find it in the HVAC system. And most of the time the coils can be cleaned. Maybe it didn't have a good filtration system, and that's how the coils got dirty. So then you have moisture, and then of course you have air. So that's kind of where we find any type of mold, or legally we call it suspect growth, because we can't call it mold unless it's tested.
Right.
So, but we do see suspect growth quite a bit around the coil area.
We've been doing some air quality or some hazardous waste in the home, different radio shows, and we got lead, for instance, and asbestos. And now, is that anything that you can help with, or is that something that, do you follow these people when they do the remediation?
Well, on asbestos, and we do run into it quite a bit because you've been into old houses in St. Louis.
Yeah, we're chock full of asbestos.
Oh, we are. I was in a home the other day, and there was just asbestos lead or asbestos tape everywhere. So in order for us to clean, that needs to be encapsulated before we can clean. And this particular asbestos was all coming apart, and it was just in pieces. So it was in very bad condition. So it needs to be contained, encapsulated before we can clean any ductwork. Because if we get in there, part of our cleaning is agitating the inside of that ductwork. So if we're agitating the inside, then that tape on the outside could become friable and loose, and we don't want that. So that's why we won't clean any ductwork with asbestos unless it's taken care of.
Okay, so if I have a home and I have the asbestos, which is common for the older homes, and I have the asbestos tape around it, and folks listen to our past show, and you'll learn more about the asbestos, but it's with the lead too. So will you not touch it until they do something with that tape, or would you clean it and just be careful?
Right. No, we wouldn't. We will step away and we will turn it over to another company. There's a few out there that do that, but we don't want to mess with this.
Well, it sounds like you're just trying to take the people's money, and you're not trying to give them the best quality. I've always been complaining about that for a long time.
I'm not gonna do it if we can't do it 100%. So, but yeah, you got to be careful for that because that stuff will kill you in about 30 years.
Oh yeah,
or
the
sooner.
Hard way.
Yeah,
what about,
it's not pleasant. Asbestosis,
no,
it is not.
No. But now I guess with lead, I don't know do you do much of that?
No, we don't. We don't.
Because I'm not for sure, what they do. I've got my lead inspection license, but I don't have I'm not a remediator.
Yeah.
Testing only. And
we really haven't run into anything like that for lead. Nothing that comes to mind. So we're not experts in that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're not experts in cleaning it either. The testers, they're just here to identify it and to move on. We got the different kinds of dust out there. Is there any filter systems that you, as an expert in the industry, would recommend, whether we can put it on or hire somebody to put it on? What do you recommend? I hear HEPA, but okay, that's a big word.
You know what? And filtration is very important to the HVAC system. The best person to talk to is your HVAC company. So whoever your company is that comes in, hopefully they come in the fall to check for the heat exchanger, and they check for all the mechanical things to make sure it's working properly. And then in the springtime, the HVAC companies come and make sure that your condensing unit and your refrigerant and everything's at the right levels. But depending upon your system, they're a good person to talk to. Now, a lot of people have the 1-inch filters, the pleated filters, and those are pretty good. The ones that are blue or green and you can pick it up and see through it, those are bad. Because and I do a little presentation sometimes, you take those filters and you put a salt shaker and it all falls through. Well, salt is pretty good size. So just think of all the other small particles that are getting through there that could clog up your blower, can clog up your coil, and so you don't want one of those in there. The HVAC companies, a lot of the newer electronic air filtrations systems, those are very good. There's some older ones out there that you used to hear them zap and pop, kind of like a bug zapper.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if they're actually working or not. So you might, if it's older than maybe 15 years, you might want to look at getting a newer one on the electronic filtration. But for most homes, a pleated filter, a nice pleated filter, the 1-inch, and if you have room, depending upon how much room you have in the cabinet, you could put a 4-inch pleated filter in there. And those you would only have to change about every 6 months. The 1-inch filters, it's really important to change them every 3 months. Even though you pull it out and you're like, well, that doesn't look dirty. By the time it is dirty, it's already inhibiting airflow, so you don't want that.
Yeah, and of course, I've always looked at it from the other side. You're running your equipment, by recycling this nasty debris over and over. So, I mean, and for what it costs to have your ductwork cleaned, I mean, you can buy a few one furnace could play for a lot of cleaning.
Yes, that is true. And duct cleaning, like we talked earlier, it's not something that you have done all the time. It should be done when it's done, 7 to 10 years.
What's something like that cost? I know. You hate them questions. I hate them too. But say for like a 2,500 square foot 2-story or a ranch, would that make a difference?
It would. So basically a house for every, say 2,500 square feet, for every 100 square feet, you probably have a supply or a return. So you probably have anywhere, and if the basement's finished, you have anywhere from maybe 23 to 30 openings in your home. So the more openings you have, the longer it takes. So that's kind of how we do our pricing. But I would think, a 2-story house, 2,500 square feet, to do it and have it done properly, you're probably looking at anywhere from $850 to $900 to $1,000.
Wow, yeah. So you could you could have this done 5 times easily, 10 times easily for one cost of a unit.
Exactly.
System.
So if you can keep it clean.
That's the life of it.
Yeah, the longer, if you put in a good filtration system, you have clean ductwork, and you maintain your system, they'll last a long time.
Now, I get, and this is on a lot of the newer homes where we don't necessarily, what we have is in our bedrooms, we don't have return airs. And so underneath the door, and there's actually a silly code that says I got to have the door cut 1 inch from up the carpet. Now, I don't know anybody that actually measures it, but there's a code out there. But I see on the lighter colored carpet that filth underneath that. That's coming right through your system, isn't it?
Exactly. So once again, our houses are not airtight. So underneath that carpet, underneath that floor padding, there is holes, there's gaps where the plywood is and whatever the construction guys build, and there's gaps out there. So what happens in your HVAC system, on the return side, those use between the walls, the panned returns, so it's pulling air from underneath the floors, and so that is pulling dirt that is in the air. You'll notice that a lot when people burn candles. You will see that, and it is actually called ghosting. And you will see it around, like people that have lighter color carpet around the vents in the floor. You'll see that dark around there. That's from some of the air blowing out, obviously, on the supply side. And it's just dirt particles.
I tell people, so we got some great videos out there, and we're going to be doing some more work on that, doing some classes on it, where people don't quite understand it. So they think, well, I'm not dirty. I'm not a dirty person. I don't have dirty ductwork. I'm clean. Look at my house. And you know what? A lot of these folks, their houses are immaculately clean. I'm jealous. I wish that mine was as clean. But what happens is they don't understand is when the low pressure down in the basement literally is sucking in the outside, which has got air, in it, and then being drawn up right out of the attic. And of course, all of this is going right through your system. So
it does.
Talk about that.
And I'm in some beautiful homes, and they're gorgeous, and they're very well kept, and they have the dirtiest ductwork, but it's from the construction debris.
Does your husband work with you, or is this solely your company?
Actually,
I know you do quite a bit more than just this.
We do, and he actually travels all across the country. He's actually on a job right now in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. We do a lot of work after fires, floods, tornadoes, and hurricanes. So we belong to a group called a National Service Team, and they work a lot with the large restoration companies. So fires and tornadoes and hurricanes, he travels quite a bit. So he's out of town. There's unfortunately, hurricanes, come in with the water, and sometimes water sits for quite a while in commercial buildings before the water goes down. And by that time, you have, mold and suspect growth issues. And on the commercial side, we come in and we take care of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, because we've had a lot of flooding going on in our Midwest here, and it looks like we might have another season like that again.
It's looking like that. We've done a lot of work maintenance-wise, schools that change out rooftop units and things like that. On the large scale, we'll come in and clean the ductwork on that. A lot of the wildfires, unfortunately, out in California,
didn't think about that, yeah.
We've done quite a bit of work out there. So.
Oh. Well, I guess you guys are headed to Australia for long.
Oh, my God. I was thinking about that. I always see those poor little kangaroos.
I'm
so sad.
Oh.
But I'm glad that they're throwing food down for what animals are left.
I am too. That's beautiful. But wow, I didn't even think about that. Of the fires and such. I think house fires, but I guess I didn't think about that. So if you live by an industrial area, that might also be another reason too.
Sure.
But let's talk about real quick, because I know we're running short on our time. Allergies, and I know people want to really hear about the allergies. What can you do to help us out?
Okay. Well, once again, a lot of things are in your home. So think of carpeting and cleaning products, curtains. Every time you open the door, whatever's outside is going to come in. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why you want to make sure that you change your filter properly or, regularly. But cleaning the ductwork, really, it helps with that. Once again, if you moved into a house where there was a smoker, if they had pets,
thinking pets in
a lot of people are very allergic to dogs or cats, and they move into a house, they will have us clean the ductwork before they even get into the house. So, there's a lot of different things out there and reasons why to clean the ductwork. Maintenance, construction, moving into a new house.
That. I'm glad you brought that in, bringing a new house. I tell folks all the time about getting their ducts worked now, and I wish that they would hear me louder, because I'm thinking to myself, and I'm not Mr. Purity, but my stars, I really don't want to live with the last people and their filth when I move into their home, and I'm thinking how, they probably was nice people, but my stars, I don't know what kind of filth that they had. Well, and I don't, ooh.
Yeah. And that's true. And that's a lot of people, when they move into the house, they're like, that's somebody else's dirt. Because when I go in, and we always want to go and do an inspection, and we want to go to the home, do a count, make sure there aren't any surprises. We'll take our cameras and we'll take a couple pictures in the ductwork. And then, you can see a lot by just pulling up the supply register and taking a picture down there. I have found many unusual things that way. So, that's just looking down the branch line. A lot of times, most of the dirt and the debris from construction is going to be in that trunk line. And when we do the duct cleaning, we do take pictures before and after. One, to prove we do what we say we're going to do, and two, to make sure we are getting everything. One instance, we were in an older couple's home. They built the house, and we cut a hole in the ductwork and took a picture before, and we saw a box, like a jewelry box. So they pulled it out, they took a picture, they opened it up, they took a picture, they documented it. So they wanted to, and then they went to the homeowners to show them what they found. And they had forgot. They didn't remember that they had hid this jewelry years ago from crazy Uncle somebody, and because he was stealing, so they hid. It was her mother's jewelry, and they put it in the ductwork and forgot all about it. So they were very thankful that we found it.
I bet they was.
But my technicians, I have wonderful people. I have wonderful guys that work for me, and they're very honest. So anything that we find, if we find a bag of money, it's yours.
Yeah.
But then we have found some really disgusting things that nobody wants, and I don't know that I can tell you all the disgusting things we found.
You know, and also too, and before we wrap this up, because this is also sadly, it's getting more important. But we got a lot of these drug manufacturer homes, you know, where they're making methamphetamine. I'm kind of ignorant to some of this stuff, but methamphetamines, because I know when we do testing, when we tear down a house, I have to do some environmental testing. Also, crack making, I guess, cocaine or something. I mean, can you guys handle that too?
Well,
I mean, or test for it, or what do we do with that?
We don't. We don't know what's there. A lot of times, a lot of that ductwork, especially drywall, because you use the returns, it has to be removed. Right. So a lot of times it just has to be some of the ductwork has to be replaced because we can't guarantee it. So it's a bad situation. And unfortunately, we've ran into that a couple of times.
Yeah, so. I bet, now, do you guys test for it at all?
We do not test. We use a couple of different companies that are certified industrial hygienists, and we work with them if we come to a home and we find out that they may have some suspect growth issues, and they need testing, then we refer to those companies. But they come in and they do a pre-test, so they know exactly what they're looking at and what needs to be remediated. And then that industrial hygienist will write a protocol on what needs to be done for the home or the business, and then the industrial hygienist will come back and do a clearance test. And it's very important to have a pre-test and a clearance test so you know that it has been cleaned and remediated properly.
So they can get a hold of Patty at Ducts and Ductz,
yes,
and make sure and ask any kind of questions. You'll guide them, whether you do it or not. You'll guide them in the right
I'm
direction.
happy to help anybody. I answer a lot of questions every day, and I'm happy to do it. I don't want our consumers and homeowners and businesses to get ripped off either. So it's very important to educate, and we do a lot of that, just educating people. And also, if you're not going to have it done and do it properly, sometimes the duct cleaning, just don't have one of those cheap companies come in because they can cause more problems than what you had in the beginning. So just check them out, the BBB and referrals. We only work off of referrals. So we work off of referrals from HVAC companies, home inspectors, building construction, mechanical contractors, general contractors. That's how we get our business. We've built a reputation on doing it right and being dependable, and we don't advertise. And that's how we get our business, and we do almost 600 jobs a year. I just think that I'm going to throw this back out one more time for the GCs or general contractors out there. When you do a big job out there, just add this extra cost that's going to be involved to get the ductwork, because you're going to be able to share with the world, I'm this higher quality, and if I'm willing to do this and they're not even thinking about it, well, you can see who's the better one. Yes.
Well, Patty, thank you so much for coming on here with us. We're going to wrap up the show, but there's just so much more I need to talk to you about. I want to visit with you about, fireplaces, and I mean, there's just tons more.
Oh, there is.
Thank
you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, tell us about how they can find you.
Okay.
Social media, your webpage, and your phone numbers.
You can find us, Ducts. Our number is 314-631-6700, and of course you can Google us at Ducts, just Google Ducts St. Louis and we'll pop up there. On my Facebook, we have a Facebook page of Ducts of West St. Louis, and We're out there. You Google Ducts, you're going to find me.
Now, Google Ducts. That's Ductz, folks.
Yeah, not the other one. Somebody, unfortunately, didn't know my business, and they said that I cleaned ducks, and she thought I was a taxidermist. Oh, my gosh. And I'm like, no, not those. No, the metal ones, not the quackers.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to know, and we're going to have, some more times we get together with you, because there's just a lot. This is important. And in today's world, the tighter we get our houses, the more that we are worried about air quality control. We definitely need professionals, and we need to be educated. And thank you so much. One more time, we're going to put a link too. So if you come to Galloway Building Services, either our Facebook or www.Galloway Building Services, our webpage, we're going to put a link over to Patty's page and webpage, so it's all tied together. So if you just don't remember one, you remember the other. It'll be a great way to catch her. And Patty, give me your phone number one more time, please.
The office for Ducts is 314-631-6700.
That's awesome. And folks, this is Troy Galloway. I'm your humble host. I'm the owner of Galloway Building Services, and we have really enjoyed bringing this show to you. If you have any questions about your construction problems or issues or anything, give us a call. Check out our podcast, and we're going to have this one out here in a few days, and so you can have everybody share with you. This is just that important, especially at this time of the year. Patty, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I always like to give a shout out to Joey. He's our producer. He takes good care of us. These shows wouldn't be done without his expertise. So thank you, sir. Folks, have a great day. Thank you for listening. We greatly appreciate y'all.
Sponsored by Troy Galloway and Galloway Building Services, your top choice for professional home inspections in the St. Louis area. GallowayBuildingServices.com.